This will unlock the Rangers. We have major news regarding the Blue Shirts lineup. This shakeup could make or break New York's aspirations of returning to the playoffs. Does their plan make any sense? I break down whether or not it does in just a moment on another sizzling edition of Rangers Digest. Welcome back to Rangers Digest. We are built for Blue Shirt fandom, and I am your host, Bret Botfeld. It is great to be back with you guys here on the channel. Another wonderful Wednesday, a little bit rainy, but nevertheless a beautiful night. And we have a ton of stuff to get into here today, folks. And look, we are yet another day closer to the start of NHL training camp, so we are thrilled and excited about that. But before we get into today's video, a quick reminder that about 77% of you who currently watch these videos are still unsubscribed to the channel. So please go down below and hit that free subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything happening New York Rangers. And not only that, guys, so you could be part of something special here at Rangers Digest. Let's waste no more time, and man, we got to hop right into today's video because it is going to be a packed one with a few major updates. We're going to kick things off with this major development. It was a sit-down interview between head coach Mike Sullivan and Dan Rosen, senior hockey writer for NHL.com. And Mike Sullivan revealed a couple very important things that Rangers fans, we have been discussing this the entire offseason, and it looks like we finally may have some clarity here. So, breaking news, Bald Panarin, wrote down the tidbits here. Great account on X. Mika Zibanejad will likely begin the season at right wing for the Rangers. According to New York Rangers head coach Mike Sullivan, seems like Mika has expressed pretty clearly that he's a JT Miller fan and wants to keep playing with him. Now, where this information actually came from, where this all started, was actually when Mike Sullivan flew out to Sweden to talk with Mika Zibanejad, and we're going to get into that right now. So Coach Mike Sullivan said that Zibanejad told him during their time together in Sweden that he felt he was beginning to establish chemistry playing on Miller's right late last season, saying he felt they complemented each other well, and they sure do complement each other very well. You know, Mika Zibanejad has been playing in an east to west style of hockey with the Rangers. Obviously, it fits Artemi Panarin and others' type of play style. But when you play with a player like JT Miller, he's got a north to south style approach. So putting Mika Zibanejad, more of a finesse type of player, with that bulldog and JT Miller, it's certainly a good compliment, and they make each other better. Now, you see here Coach Mike Sullivan talking about when he flew out to Sweden. Just to remind you guys that during the offseason, there were tons of rumors regarding multiple Rangers. Obviously, the Chris Kreider trade was the big one, but we had already seen Trouba moved. We saw Goodrow get cut last season. Now we saw Kreider get traded this offseason. So the dominoes were really starting to fall at a fast rate. And, there were question marks whether or not Mika Zibanejad will be traded. And once he made it clear that he wasn't going to be willing to move his no-trade clause, at least this offseason, bought a new home in New York City. When he was staying in Sweden, Mike Sullivan flew out there and spoke about, how can we get the best out of you? How can we get you to bounce back and return to the type of player, basically, that you were during the 22-23 season when you had 91 points or something similar to that? 62 points is a solid year, but for Mika Zibanejad's standards, for what Mika Zibanejad gets paid, 62 points isn't enough. The effort, the compete level wasn't there. So Sullivan flew out to Sweden, hashed things out, and Mika Zibanejad made it very clear that he wants to play with JT Miller, and it looks like he will. Now, NYR Louie, another great account on X, chimed in on the conversation saying, figured it would start like this considering the jump in Mika's production at the end of last year and the aggressiveness to sign Parssinen early in the offseason. Drury targeted Parssinen on multiple occasions and signed him before any other restricted free agent. So a few things to get into here from NYR Louie. First things first, Mika's production at the end of last year, obviously we saw that jump. Let's not forget, folks, through the first 50 games of this past season, only 29 points for Mika. So basically a half point per game player. That's not going to cut it, for basically a $9 million player, your third highest paid skater. But that was before the JT Miller trade. Once JT Miller was traded to the Rangers, those final 32 games, Mika Zibanejad put up 33 points. He was putting up over 1 point per game. That's what you expect out of a $9 million player. And Mika Zibanejad was giving you that elite type of production when he was playing on JT Miller's right. Now, let's talk about the Parssinen stuff here from NYR Louie, because in my last video, I spoke about Juuso Parssinen. I spoke about the fact that he is likely to play third-line center for the Rangers, whether you like it or not, simply because, as you can see here, Chris Drury locked him up quickly. He really did to start this offseason, and you're probably wondering why, Parssinen has really tailed off here ever since his debut year in Nashville, where he was a very solid player, really jumped onto the NHL scene, showing that offensive upside, a big body also. But Parssinen at third-line center, it's more intriguing, I have to say, than, putting Johnny Brzezinski there, or, excuse me, I need a sip of water here. Then putting Johnny Brzezinski there, who is coming off his best season in the NHL, which is certainly interesting because, he's 32 years of age, been in the league a while, but we have to give him credit. He is coming off his best season, was a solid player for the Rangers, has those leadership qualities. Players absolutely love Brzezinski, but he's more of a 13th forward, to be completely honest with you, on a playoff team. Brings the leadership quality, brings those intangibles. He's got that compete level, he's got the will, he's got the want to, and he did put the puck in the net at a decent clip this past season when the opportunity presented itself. But like I said, we already know his ceiling with Parssinen. He's still young. I'm interested in possibly forming a kid line 2.0, with Bret Botfeld, Juuso Parssinen. Obviously, Taylor Radish is slated to play third right wing, but we'll see what happens there. Maybe Gabe Perreault jumps onto the scene some point this year. But I'm also not interested in moving Sam Carrick, because that's the other option. I don't want to move Sam Carrick from fourth line center to third line center. I want to keep that identity line intact. I really like that tough, type of DNA that they have, because every playoff contender has a DNA. Every playoff contender has an identity. And the Rangers, identity last year, especially late in the season, really was that fourth line. So I want to run it back. I want them to have a full season together, Edstrom, Carrick, Rempe. So don't move Carrick to third line center. And Brzezinski, I feel like we've seen the best of him. We know his ceiling. Juuso Parssinen, there is a little bit of intrigue there. Not saying he's a, stud or anything like that, but there is a certain level of intrigue in comparison to Johnny Brzezinski, who I do have a lot of respect for and want to see him on the team. And he will make an impact this year, no doubt about it. Another thing here from NYR Louie, I am generally fine with Mika on JT Miller's wing. Less defensive responsibility on the wing, less pressure to play make, should boost shot volume, etc. Great point here by Louie. Look, Mika hasn't been playing as well on the defensive end either, so it'll be good for JT Miller to take that responsibility. Still a very good two-way forward, JT Miller. And you see here, should boost shot volume. It absolutely will. Great point. Because I said it earlier in the video that JT Miller plays that north to south style of hockey. He's going to crash the net. He's going to, put the pressure on the opposing team's goalie. There'll be a lot of second chance scoring options, second chance scoring options, a lot of rebounds heading towards Mika Zibanejad. So I feel like he can execute on those second chance opportunities. And moving along here, another tidbit from Sullivan in his interview with Dan Rosen. The New York Rangers see Will Coulie replacing Chris Kreider's production in the top six. Seems like Sully loves his game and sees him as a top six staple. I've said this here on the channel that Coulie and Kreider, while they are two different players, Coulie could do some of the same things that Kreider was able to provide for the Rangers, and I believe he will. But before I tell you why, I want to get into what Sullivan had to say about Will Coulie. All right, guys, I think Will Coulie will play a prominent role within this roster, Sullivan said. I've watched a fair amount of games since I've taken this job to try to familiarize myself with some of the players that maybe I haven't been as familiar with, and Will Coulie was one of them. His power game, his ability to go to the net, his physical edge that he brings to the line that he's on, it's impressive. I would envision him playing in the top 6 with some of our most talented players, and with the skill set he brings, he can complement those guys extremely well. Fascinating quote there from Mike Sullivan. Now let's get into his stats from last season. All right, Will Coulie, 82 games, very durable, put up 45 points, plus 12 in 15 minutes of ice time. Look at this glaring stat right here. Actually, it's not here, but the amount of hits that he had last season, when you combine that physicality with his ability to score, you just don't really see that throughout the NHL. He is the type of player that you want to build around moving forward, and I am so happy the Rangers were able to lock him up. But look at this, guys, 45 points. Last year, he put up 21 points, more than doubled his production. He was a plus 12. Not many Rangers were in the plus category this past year. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the snarl. Very good two-way forward. He's intelligent in all 3 zones. You know, I call him a 200-foot player. And when it comes to the Kreider comparison, look, they both have the net front presence. Coulie isn't as fast as Kreider, but he is similar in size. He plays the north to south style of hockey, crashes the net. And not only that, guys, but both bully their defenders down low. I'm not saying that Will Coulie is going to be the same player as Chris Kreider. I'm not saying he's going to put up 50 goals this season, but what I am saying is that Will Coulie is a very good option to replace some of that production that Chris Kreider provided. Very big body, bullies his defenders, brings that great net front presence, and I'd like to see him get utilized on the power play. Not in a limited role, but I really would love to see Will Coulie, along with Alexis Lafreniere, utilized on that power play unit. But that's going to be it here today, folks. I am fascinated to hear what you guys have to say. Do you want to see Mika Zibanejad on JT Miller's right side? Do you think Will Coulie can help replace some of that production, that void that Chris Kreider left? Leave your comment down below. Give us a follow on X at Rangers Digest YT. Leave a comment over there as well, because the conversation continues over there and in the comment section. Also, if you haven't hit that free subscribe button, please hit that button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.